Here's the thing nobody tells you about Subtest 1. It's not a test about whether you're a good leader. It's a test about whether you know what Florida law requires you to do in very specific situations, and whether you can apply that to a scenario you've probably never seen before. Most people walk in thinking they're going to rely on their experience, and they fail. Not because they're not good administrators, because experience isn't what this test is measuring. In this video, I'm going to walk you through all 4 competencies in Subtest 1, teach you the concepts that actually show up on the exam, and work through a real practice question with you. By the end of this, you'll know exactly what you need to study. Let's get into it. Subtest 1 covers 4 competencies. Competency 1, laws, ethics, and compliance. Competency 2, fiscal management and resource allocation. Competency 3, school operations, safety, and human resources. Competency 4, data-driven decision making. Now, here's what most people get wrong about how to study for this. They try to memorize everything. That's not what the exam is testing. The exam gives you scenarios, situations, and it asks you, what does the law or best practice require you to do, and in what order? That's the frame I want you to carry through this entire video. What is required and in what order? Let's go through each competency, and I'll give you the concepts that actually show up on the exam. Competency 1 is about laws, ethics, and compliance. And this is where most people either overstudy or completely understudy. Here's what Competency 1 actually covers. You don't need to memorize every word of every statute. What you need to understand is, what does the law require you to do and in what order? Rule 6A 10081, that's the Florida Principles of Professional Conduct for Educators. IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. FERPA, Student Privacy. Title IX, Sex Discrimination. ADA, Disability Access. The Florida Consent Decree covers English language learners. SIPA, Internet Safety. Florida Chapter 39, Mandatory Reporting of Suspected Abuse, and the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act, Threat Assessment Requirements. Now, I'm going to teach you the single most important concept in Competency 1, that I believe it is, mandatory reporting under Florida Chapter 39. If a student tells a teacher or a teacher suspects abuse at home, the teacher reports to you, the principal. Here's what Florida law requires you to do first. Report immediately to DCF or law enforcement, not investigate, not call the parents, not document and discuss at the next faculty meeting. Report immediately to DCF or law enforcement. You do not investigate first. You do not notify parents first. These 2 wrong answers will be on your exam. They always are, because they feel like the right thing to do in your heart, but it's not the right thing to do. You're actually going against the law. The logic is Florida Chapter 39 exists because schools are mandatory reporters. The moment you have reasonable suspicion, you report. Investigation is DCF's job, not yours. That one concept, the mandatory reporting sequence, is worth knowing cold. It shows up in Subtest 1, and it has a very specific right answer that your experience as an educator might actually work against you. Competency 2, fiscal management. This one makes people nervous because it sounds like accounting. It's not. You're not being asked to balance a budget. You're being asked to demonstrate that you understand how school funding works and what the rules are for spending it. FEFP, the Florida Education Finance Program. This is the main funding formula. BSA, base student allocation, the per pupil amount within FEFP. Internal accounts, your school's own money, booster clubs, students' activities. This is critical. I'll come back to this. Title I, Federal Funds for High Poverty Schools. IDEA Part B, Federal Funds for Special Education. Perkins 5, Career and Technical Education Funding. Capital Outlay, Facilities and Equipment. Note, only for those purposes, not for salaries, not for supplies. Now let me give you the 2 concepts in Competency 2 that have the clearest answers. So here's the concept that trips people up most in competency 2, internal accounts. Internal accounts are not the same as your district budget. They're governed by Florida Statute 101001. Money raised by student organizations, the band, the drama club, the PTA, goes into internal accounts. The rules are strict. 1. You cannot commingle internal account funds with district funds. 2. Expenditures must be for the benefit of students. 3. There must be an annual audit. 4. The principal is personally responsible for those accounts. Exam questions on this competency will often give you a scenario where money is being spent or moved in a way that seems reasonable but violates one of these rules. The right answer almost always comes back to, is this for students? Is it properly documented? And who has authority to approve it? Another one to know called capital outlay funds. They can only be used for facilities, equipment, or technology, not salaries, not supplies, not professional development. This shows up a lot because it has a very clear right answer and they want to make sure that you know it. Competency 3 covers school operations, safety, and human resources. This is the most practical feeling competency, but practical doesn't mean easy on the exam. This test is looking for the correct procedure, not what you'd do instinctively. Key areas in Competency 3: safety, threat assessment protocols under the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act, MTSS, multi-tiered system of supports, tiers 1, 2, and 3, curriculum, adoption cycles, instructional materials approval, delegation, what can you delegate and to whom, emergency communication, who gets notified, in what order, using what system, staff assignments and evaluations, what the principal controls versus the district. So let's look now at some of the clear answers that you would find for Competency 3. So let me teach you the two things in Competency 3 that have the clearest exam answers. First, threat assessment teams. Under the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act, every Florida school must have a threat assessment team. The team, not the principal alone, assesses threats. The principal cannot make that determination independently. If a scenario gives you a student making a threat, the correct first step is always to convene the threat assessment team, not call the parents, not suspend the student, convene the team. Those will be the wrong answer choices in the X's. Do not fall for them. Second, MTSS tiers. Tier 1 is for all students, high quality universal instruction. Tier 2 is for students who need supplemental support, small group intervention. Tier 3 is for students who need intensive, individualized support. Where people get tripped up, a student failing one class does not automatically go to Tier 2. A student who has been through Tier 2 intervention without improvement moves to Tier 3, but that takes data and documentation. The exam rewards the principal who understands that MTSS is data-driven, not just a referral system. Competency 4 is data-driven decision-making, and this one is more about process than content. What the exam is testing here is whether you understand how a principal uses data to drive improvement, not just how to read a report. Key distinction: leading indicators versus lagging indicators. Leading indicators are predictive. They tell you what's likely to happen. Attendance, discipline referrals, formative assessment scores, these are things you can act on now. Lagging indicators are outcome data. They tell you what already happened. FSA scores, graduation rates, state accountability grades. By the time you see these, the school year is already over. The exam will test whether you know which type of data to use and when. A principal who sees rising discipline referrals in October is looking at a leading indicator. The smart move is to act before it shows up in the lagging data. Here's the exam trap in Competency 4. A scenario will show you a school where test scores dropped. The question will ask what you should do first. The wrong answer is to immediately implement a new intervention program. The right answer is almost always to analyze the data first. Disaggregate it. Break it down by subgroup, by race ethnicity, by ESC, by ELL students. Break it down by teacher, by standard. Compare year over year. Only after you understand where the drop is coming from can you plan the right response. The sequence is analyze, then plan, then act, and then you monitor. You use leading indicators to check whether your intervention is working before the next round of testing. The exam rewards the administrator who looks before they leap. Analyze, then plan, then act, and finally monitor. Let's do a practice question. This is the kind of question you'll see on Subtest 1. A principal receives a call from a community member who reports seeing a student arrive at school with bruises on their arms. The student denies any abuse. What should the principal do first? A. Contact the student's parents to discuss the community member's concerns. B. Report the suspicion to DCF or law enforcement immediately. C. Document the observation and monitor the student for additional signs. D. Refer the student to the school counselor for a welfare check. Take a moment. Which one would you choose? Let's work through this. Choice A, contact the parent. This feels like the right thing to do. It's not. Florida Chapter 9 does not require parent notification before a report. In fact, contacting parents first could compromise the investigation. A is wrong. Choice C, document and monitor. This is the one that traps experienced educators. You're thinking, I want more evidence before I do something drastic. That's reasonable human instinct, but it's the wrong answer. Mandatory reporting is triggered by reasonable suspicion, not certainty. C is wrong. Choice D, refer to the counselor. The counselor is not the reporter in the chain of command for this purpose. You are. D is wrong. Choice B, report to DCF or law enforcement immediately. This is the correct answer every time. You have reasonable suspicion. Florida law requires you to report. The report triggers the professional investigation. Your job is to report, not to investigate, not to verify, not to warn the family. That is a subtest 1 question. That is how it's structured. And that is why what you do as a caring principal sometimes leads you to the wrong answer. That's what I can teach you in about 10 minutes. There are 50 practice questions in the Subtest 1 study guide, 50 flashcards organized by competency, open in any browser, no app needed, a one-page cram sheet with everything I just covered and more, condensed into a format you can review the night before your exam. I also have the full package for all 4 subtests, Subtest 1 through 4, 12 files total, instant download. The link is in the description and pinned in the comments. It's $97 for everything. A retake is more than that, and you don't want to go through that. If this video helped you, genuinely helped you, then the full package is going to do more of the same. That's my honest pitch. Good luck on your exam. You've got this.